There is a specific feeling that most people never quite put into words.
You're sitting in a meeting. Someone is presenting a project. The numbers are clean, the slides are polished, the language is careful. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet thought surfaces, not loud enough to be called a conviction, not sharp enough to be called anger, just a slow, steady awareness that something is moving in this room that has nothing to do with what is being said out loud. Resources are being allocated. Skills are being developed. Relationships are being built. Knowledge is being transferred. And all of it, every single piece of it, belongs to the company when the meeting ends.
You walk out, you go home. And if someone asked you what you built today, you would pause.
Because the honest answer is, you built something, but it is not yours. This is not a complaint. This is an observation, and the difference between those two things is everything. Most people experience this feeling as a vague dissatisfaction. They call it burnout or stagnation, or the sense that their career is not going anywhere meaningful. They look for a new job, a better manager, a higher salary. They adjust the surface of the situation without ever examining its architecture.
But the architecture is the point. The architecture is what we're going to look at today. Here is what is actually happening inside every employment relationship, stated plainly. Your employer is an investor. They invest capital, money, infrastructure, clients, brand, legal cover, market access, and in exchange, they receive the output of your labor. That is the official version of the transaction. That is what the contract says. That is what most people understand when they accept a job offer.
But there is a second layer to this transaction that almost no one reads carefully. And that second layer is where the real leverage lives.
Your employer is also investing in your development. Every project you complete teaches you something. Every problem you solve sharpens a capability. Every client conversation, every internal conflict navigated, every system you learn to use, all of it is being deposited somewhere. The question is not whether this investment is happening. It is happening regardless. The question is, who controls the account where those deposits are going? Most people assume the answer is obvious. The knowledge lives in my head, so it belongs to me. But that is not quite right. Because knowledge without application is inert. Capability without context is invisible. And context, by default, belongs to the employer. What you actually own after 3 years at a company depends almost entirely on how deliberately you have been extracting value from that relationship, not just delivering value into it. This is the shift in frame that changes everything.
Every employment relationship contains a structural asymmetry that is almost never discussed openly. The company knows exactly what it is getting from you. It has job descriptions, KPIs, performance reviews, output metrics. It has systems for measuring your contribution with remarkable precision. You, on the other hand, are often operating without any equivalent clarity about what you are getting from the company beyond your salary. Think about the last time you sat down and calculated, not how much you earn, but how much you are learning. Not just technically, strategically, about how decisions get made at scale, about how resources flow inside complex organizations, about which problems are actually hard and which problems only look hard, about what clients really pay for versus what they say they pay for. Most people cannot answer these questions about their own careers. They have been so focused on performing their role that they never built a map of what the role was building in them. The company has a map. It always has a map. You are a line item in a resource allocation model. The asymmetry is not malicious, it is structural.
but it operates against you if you are unaware of it. The first rule of corporate arbitrage is this: you cannot extract value from a system you have not bothered to understand. The comparison between an employer and a venture investor is not a metaphor. It is a technical description of how the relationship functions. A venture investor provides capital in exchange for equity, a share of future value created. They accept the risk that the investment might produce nothing. In exchange, they receive disproportionate returns if it succeeds. Your employer does the same thing with slightly different vocabulary. They provide salary, benefits, infrastructure, and access. They accept the risk that you might not perform. In exchange, they receive ownership of the output, the clients you serve, the systems you build, the processes you optimize, the culture you shape. But here is what venture investors do that salaried employees almost never do. Venture investors negotiate the terms of their capital deployment before they commit it. They do not simply show up and work hard and hope the relationship produces something valuable. They ask, what do I get access to? What decisions will I be part of? What information will be shared with me? What happens if the company succeeds? What happens if it does not? They treat the relationship as a transaction between two parties with legitimate interests, not as an act of loyalty that will be rewarded eventually, somehow, by someone. Most employees do the opposite. They front-load the loyalty and backload the negotiation. They give fully before understanding what they are getting. And then, 3 or 5 or 10 years later, they find themselves in a position where the leverage has already been spent. The second rule: negotiate the terms of your learning before you commit your effort, not after. Inside every organization, there are 2 curricula running simultaneously. The first is the official one: job responsibilities, skill requirements, performance expectations. This is the curriculum that gets you promoted within the existing structure. The second is invisible. It is the curriculum of how this particular organization actually functions, how decisions are really made, who has informal authority, where the bottlenecks live, what the clients actually need versus what they say they need, how problems that cannot be fixed are managed so they do not become visible problems. This curriculum is never written down. It is transmitted through proximity, through observation, through access. Here is the critical distinction. The official curriculum makes you a better employee. The invisible curriculum makes you a better operator. A better employee is more valuable to this employer. A better operator is more valuable in any context, as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, as a partner, as a founder. Most people spend their entire careers absorbing the official curriculum with full attention and absorbing the invisible one only by accident, picking up fragments without understanding what they are looking at. Corporate arbitrage means reversing that priority. It means treating the invisible curriculum as the primary asset you are there to acquire. Every meeting about strategy that you sit in is not just a meeting. It is a case study in how organizations allocate attention under constraint. Every budget conversation you are near is a lesson in how value is measured and fought over inside complex systems. Every difficult client interaction is a training session in negotiation at the edge of relationship breakage. The third rule: the official job is the cover story. The real work is building a map of how this organization actually functions. One of the most underutilized aspects of employment is resource access. Companies have assets that would be extraordinarily expensive to acquire individually. Databases, legal infrastructure, brand recognition, client relationships, research budgets, talent networks, access to decision makers at other organizations. The employed person exists inside this infrastructure constantly. They use it as a tool to do their job, but almost no one treats it as a resource they are entitled to learn from, not just use. There's a distinction between operating a machine and understanding how the machine works. The first produces output. The second produces capability. Consider the difference between a junior analyst who executes financial models and a junior analyst who understands why those particular models were chosen, what assumptions they encode, what they systematically obscure, and what a decision maker actually reads from the output. Both people completed the same task, only one person left with something transferable. The extractive question is not, how do I do this well? The extractive question is, what does doing this teach me about the underlying system I am operating inside? Apply this across every function you touch, every tool you use, every process you participate in. The company is not just paying you to work. It is, whether it intends to or not, giving you access to a running laboratory in organizational design, resource allocation, and market dynamics. The fourth rule: treat resource access as a curriculum, not a convenience.